So let's get into that a little bit of how like you got your voice. So how did you know that music was for you? How did you know like this was your drive to do music, become a musician?
It's difficult for me to pinpoint exactly at what moment I decided I'm going to commit to being a musician. I know that in my mid 20s is when I seriously began to pursue a music career as an indie. But to get to where I am, it has been kind of a lifelong journey. I moved to the United States when I was very young, from Ukraine. And as an immigrant kid, I wanted to fit in, and the best way I could communicate at that time was through the arts. And just because I was still new to English, so visual art, dance. I was dancing in the Ukrainian ethnic dance group here, and music. They've always been a part of my life in some form or another. And when it comes to music more specifically, songwriting is something I got into in my teens. And I was very shy to play my music in front of others for a long while. I personally wanted to hone my craft a little bit more. And I had a good friend that encouraged me to try out some open mics. And it was what I needed to kind of get out of my comfort zone and, start singing in a more open way.
Okay. So you said that you're from Ukraine, right?
That's right.
So do you incorporate a lot of or some of your Ukrainian culture into your music?
Um, y- yes, I think it's a good question because I'm like, well, there's an element of my Eastern European heritage that gives me a unique perspective on Western music because I love American music. I grew up pretty much consuming that 24/7. I wasn't I didn't grow up listening to Ukrainian music so much, but dancing, for example, Ukrainian,
Hmm.
there's a lot of folk music there, and that has definitely affected my own tastes. Um, I definitely like a lot of world music now. Yeah, so it has impacted me, um, but I like to think of it as it gave me a unique enough perspective to look at Western music and American music in a new light and appreciate it so much more.
That's amazing. I love that. So when you're writing music, what's the process like of when you come across either a lyric or maybe a music note or a few, all in between?
Yeah, so I try not to, I guess the term is box myself into any single creative process around that. But I do like routine. And so for me, I try to write a song or work on an older song each week. Um, and a lot of it is just continuing to refine a song I've already written, and sometimes that leads to a new approach to a different song. And until a song is recorded and produced, it's not set in stone for me. I'll often keep working on them, and it's funny because I live stream every other Tuesday, and my live stream audience, they probably might laugh if they're listening to this, but I'll come at them with an old song, but then they'll like I'll be singing it and I'll hit a different note than they're used to because I've changed it a little bit, and it just catches them off guard. But I think they like that. I think they like to be able to see the songs evolve. And but more specifically, um, I normally start either with a melody in my head or a series of guitar chords I'm just messing around with. It could be a few words that stand out to me in the day. Sometimes sometimes I get these haunting images that like I see something and it affects me emotionally, or some sort of indescribable feeling that I just can't let go of, and I can't really describe what it is, and the music ends up helping me come to terms with it. And yeah, sorry, some
No, you're
music,
fine.
the music can take years to write, and and then I'll have some songs that I'll write, in an hour. So it's kind of all over the place. It's my creative process is very messy.
So what's your most like either favorite song or memorable song that you have written?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, hmm. I think there's a couple of songs recently that so I like to have a balance between upbeat music that's kind of more
Hmm.
love songs and nostalgic, but also music that has more serious content to it, that's more social in nature. And I think the ones that stick with me the longest have that social nature to them. Uh, this last year, I wrote a song called "Stranger," and it's about um, the 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 message of the song is that everyone is in their own way a stranger, and like and I wrote it thinking about all the Ukrainian refugees and how the displacement of their life and where they're living now and just culture shock and all that. It's there's good people everywhere, but um, there's a line from the song where it's like, the ground that you sleep on is different, and you know it. So I think songs like that um, stand out to me. You know, there's another song I wrote about the Ukrainian genocide in 1932, the Holodomor, and I haven't recorded either of those two songs yet, but consistently they really resonate with people, and yeah, so it's a sad song, but I feel like it has profound meaning.
I think that's what's really important is like having songs that have meaning behind it. And I love the meaning behind those songs for sure, especially like what's been going on recently with Ukraine and everything too.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people will definitely, like you said, resonate with that. So, you said that you had a few musical influences. Um, who are those musical influences, and have you had a chance to actually meet any of them?
Okay, so we could spend the entire interview just talking about musical influences because I um, one of my jobs is I'm a personal trainer, and
Hmm.
music playing the whole day when I'm training clients, and my Spotify playlist jumps from 30s to 60s, then back to the 50s, and back to the, you know, 90s. It's all over the place. But I think, in the broader sense, I view my music and art as a marriage of my Eastern European heritage and my love of Western and American music, and there's some of that in my choices of instruments on tracks. Um, but can get detailed. So 50s, 60s, and 70s. Some names that stand out to me are the Beach Boys. I love the Beach Boys. I just, I had some early memories, like, well, maybe not early, but like in my early teens, I would help my mom out, who was working at a senior daycare, and they always had the Beach Boys on, and that kind of just, I don't know, it leached into my soul. But as I got older and started to truly appreciate songwriting and music composition, I'd go back to the Beach Boys and I'd just be just blown away by the musicianship of it all. And I think it's the biggest band I like from the whole Baroque pop genre of the 60s, but definitely there's a lot there. I love the harmonies that they do. Um, Genius stuff. Uh, and then Roy Orbison, you know, different artist altogether, but
Hmm.
the songwriting, especially his voice, is truly iconic. I'm drawn to unique sounding voices, and Patsy Cline for some of the same reasons. Um, like I for the longest time, I kind of didn't really listen to country music because the country music that I was exposed to was today's modern, you know what I mean, right? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it was a shame because like classic country has incredible songwriting. It's like to me it's starting to define this I don't know, magic moment in American music history. Yeah, so I love Patsy Cline. If we go a little back a little further in time, Billie Holiday is. I'm just a huge fan of hers, and getting into her music also developed it over time. I developed a more of an appreciation for jazz music in general. Um, the last couple years, I've been binging on doo-wop music. Like artists like the Platters, the Dell Vikings, Skyliners, the Flamingos.
Hmm.
I also like some 70s folk. Um, Cat Stevens, Joni Mitchell, um, David Bowie could probably fall into that category as well. Um, and so I've given you a list of older artists, most of whom I believe are no longer with us. Uh, no, I haven't met any of those. Met any artists on my list yet, but I sure would like to. Um,
I mean, the Beach Boys are still, well, a few of them are still alive.
that's true. That's because that could be something I could aspire to. Um, and then I do have some contemporary influences as well, like starting from the '90s. I should probably mention Chris Isaac, Radiohead, um, Jeff Buckley, Elliott Smith, and then more recently, Lana Del Rey. I think is a great songwriter, or has a great songwriting team with her. It's I like the direction she's going
Hmm.
recently, where it's a lot more sparsely um, produced. Well, it's produced, but the sparse sounding, where it's more focused on her vocals. Um, and Perfume Genius, I like the whole chamber pop, baroque pop thing he's got going on. And more recently, Orville Peck. I think he's a great songwriter, and I really like his style and the whole like Western country showmanship. He's definitely like feeding off that classic American music thing that I talked about from like the '60s, and the Patsy Cline and Roy Orbison vein. So yeah, I'd say they're a little bit all over the place. Um, I find myself going back to these artists.
That's awesome.